Right. So this is how we use the scenario outline. So let me run this again and show you. Right. So you will see it will run for 4 times because we have 4 examples which we have mentioned in the scenario outline. Okay. And if we go to the results, okay, so this is how you use it. Um, okay, so the next feature of Cucumber, which we have already discussed, but I have not shown you till now. So which is called the tags, right? So how do you make sure that which feature file or which scenario you want to run, right? If there is any particular scenario which you want to run during your testing, not all the scenarios, how you can do that? Okay, so there is something called tags. Okay, and you can mention the tags using the @ symbol. Okay, so I can mention this at smoke, and I can also mention it at regression. So you can mention the tags for either at the feature level or for scenario outline, or for examples, as we have spoken earlier as well, right? So I can have any number of tags for my scenarios, right? So a particular scenario could be valid for any number of scenarios. Okay, so either I can have two tags for one scenario and one tag for another scenario. So the combination will run depending on what tags you want to run. Okay, so if you want to run the smoke tag, right, so both the scenarios would run, but if you run the regression, then only this will run. Okay, so maybe actually we should put the regression here because we are testing the invalid scenarios, right? So this is how you can mention tags for each of your scenarios. Now, the other thing you need to do is you need to mention it in your Cucumber runner file as well. Okay, so here you can say tags, right? And you can say smoke. This is how you mention your tags, and obviously you can mention multiple tags. Okay, so right now I have just mentioned smoke, so it should be, if I run this test from my test runner, it should only run the smoke test cases. But okay, okay, just a minute. I think I mentioned it something wrong here. I did not put at, so we need to put at also. I just put the name. Should be running now. Okay, so we need to put at before the tag name. So as we have put uh, on top of the scenario, the same way you have to mention it here. Okay, so as you can see, it only ran this particular scenario outline, which is these 3 scenarios. That is because this scenario has got the regression tag. It has also got the smoke tag, but we are not running the smoke tag right now. So And this scenario would not run because we don't have the regression tag at the top of this scenario. Okay, so only this scenario would run right now if you use the regression tag. If I use the smoke tag, then it will run both the test cases. So that is how it considers how you can run different tags. Okay. Okay. So this is how you use tags to filter out your test cases. Um, and we have talked about scenario outline. We have talked about examples. We have talked about hooks. And then the last part is background. Okay, so I have explained you what is background, right? So um, let's take up the scenario which we were discussing earlier in the earlier session, right? So this is the login.feature file. Let's create another feature file here. And the precondition for this feature file, we want that the user should be logged in. Okay. So what kind of scenario we can have for a logged in scenario or for a logged in user is okay. So adding any product to the cart. Okay, so say for example, I want to add the MacBook. So I will be adding it to the cart, right? And for that, I need to be a logged in user. Okay, so that's the precondition, and that we will do using the background step. So let's call this shopping cart dot feature. Okay, I will name this feature as shopping add products to shopping cart. And my first scenario would be user is able to add product into the shopping cart. So this is my scenario. Now, as I said, the precondition for this particular scenario is the user should be logged in, right? So there is a keyword background, right, in Gherkin language where you can mention your background steps, right? So this will be executed for every scenario. Before every scenario, this background would be executed. Now there is some similarity between background and hooks, right? So you can use either of them interchangeably, which means you can either use hooks or you can either use background. In case of hooks, if anybody is looking into the feature file, he would not be able to see what are the background steps because it is mentioned in the hooks file. Okay, so if you want to ignore that kind of confusion, you can go ahead with background as well. Okay, so you can mention these steps which are mentioned here in the background steps. So here I want the user to be logged in, right? So user is, I will say, logged in to the application. So this is my given step, which is the background step. Okay, and I will create a step definition for this. And this will be a combination of all the steps which you have written earlier. Okay, or you can directly call the methods also, which we have already created. So user enters valid username in the email field, user enters valid password, and user clicks on the login button, and user is logged in successfully. So all of these methods we have already defined in this particular class, so I can just reuse those methods. Okay, and that will uh, be my background step, which is user is logged in into the application. So this is the shopping cart feature, and now I can have my steps here. for the scenario. Okay, so what is the first step, right? So once the user is logged in, so let's go back and pick up the scenario, right? So this is the home page. Now from here, user needs to go onto the either into the desktops or into the laptops, right? So say for example, I want to go to this show all laptops and notebooks, and I want to click on this add to cart to add the MacBook into the cart. Okay, so this is our complete flow. So let's go back here and see how we can automate this. Okay, so after we log in, the first step is to click on this show all laptops and notebooks. Okay, so let's first design our scenario steps. So given user clicks on show all notebooks and laptops link. Okay, then when user clicks on add to cart button for the MacBook product, then the MacBook product is added to the cart or shopping cart. Okay, so this is my whole scenario, and let's create another step definitions now, which will be, let's call it products step defs. Okay, so let's take it from the login step definitions and put it under the product step definitions. Okay, so these are our step definitions. Now I just need to have different methods which would be called from different pages. Okay, so in home page, let's design our methods first. I will have something called click all laptops and notebooks. Okay, and for this I can use the click element, which is already present. Okay, I need to pass the element here. Now, let's see how we can identify this element. So show all laptops and notebooks. This is the text. It is a link, right? So let's see if we are able to identify it with this particular text. Okay, so this text part. This is a link. So show all laptops and notebooks. right? And if you see, it is under a drop down. Okay, so you cannot directly click on this because you need to first hover over this um, drop down and then go and click on this. Okay, so there are two actions. So this is the link which we need to hover to show the drop down. Okay, so again, there are two links like this. So let's take the index here. Okay, so this is the unique link for laptops and notebooks. Okay, so here what we can do is we can pass the link for show all laptops and notebooks. So it will click on this. But before that, we need to hover over this particular element, right? Or we can create a single method which will hover and which will also click, right? So let's go to browser utils. Right, so till now we have all these methods. Now let's add another method. And we can say hover element, string element, right? So here we need to use the actions class, which we have already learned, and new actions, right? We'll pass the driver here, and then actions dot, we'll say move to element, right? And we'll pass the element here. But before that, we need to create the element. Okay, so web element, let's call it E equals to driver dot find element by dot export. Okay, so this is our element which we need to move to, which will basically hover over that particular element. And so what we can do here, if we want to hover and click on a particular element, right? So let's change this, hover and click on element. So we need two elements here. So first element would be used to hover over that element, right? So let's create two elements here. So once we get that, then we'll move to element and we will click on the element. Okay, so these are the two actions which we want to perform. Then we'll say build.perform and that should do the job. Okay, now okay, I'm looking whether we can use this particular find and wait for element in here. So we can do that. So instead of using the WebDrive method, we'll use our custom method. Okay, so okay, so now it looks okay. Now let's go back to shopping cart.feature. And where is our page? Okay, so this is the page. Now, instead of using this, I'm going to use my new method, which I have created, and I will pass the two XPaths here. So the first would be laptops and notebooks, and the second would be the show all laptops and notebooks. Okay, so this is our method, which is calling this. And then here I will call homepage dot click all laptops and notebooks. Okay, so one thing to note here is it is not necessary that if you are working on the product step definitions, you cannot use the other page objects, right? Like the home page, I have this particular method and these page objects because these are present in the home page, right? So when I get logged in, these drop downs are already present. So I can consider it to be the home page drop downs rather than the products page drop downs. Okay. So once I click on this show all laptops and notebooks, then maybe I can consider this as all of these objects as the products page objects. Okay. So I can use any page objects in any particular step definitions. It doesn't matter if you are using the home page or login page or the any other page. Okay. Now once I am on the products page, right? So I want to click on the MacBook or the MacBook product and add it to the cart. So let's see. Now I want to create another page. Okay, so I'm going to call it. So let's create the page object class here. I'm going to call it products page. And here let's have private static string. So I want to add the MacBook product. So we can do it this scenario both ways, right? So there are two ways. Either I can directly click on add to cart, right? Or I can click on this MacBook product and then I can validate these details and then I can add to cart, right? So this flow is the more extensive flow, right? Because you also need to verify what product you are adding. So let's first add this product and then we will see how we can do this. So this should be identified with the MacBook text. Let's see if we are able to identify this. Okay, so 1 of 1, that means it is unique. So we can use this text. So we'll call it link MacBook. Okay. What else we need? So this also we can consider it as the products page. Okay. So what else we require here is the add to cart button. And we have got the ID, so that should be okay. So we'll say button add ID equals this. Okay, so it's unique. So let's go ahead and add this. So we'll call it button add to cart. what else we require, right? Now, if you want to validate the price of this particular product, okay, so let's try and inspect this. Although we don't require it right now, but it will be required for other scenarios, right? So what we can do here is as you can see, there is no such identifier which I can use here, right? But what I can use some access methods from XPath to kind of get this particular text. Okay, so how I can do this? Let's see. So let's take this text which is on top of this, right? So it could be a child element of this particular some particular div. Okay, so let's see what we have got here. If I take the div ID product and right, so let's try it this way. So any ideas which XPath method I can use here? If I take this div ID product, I can take the ancestors, right? So all of these are ancestors, but I think this div element is actually the ancestor of the product. So again, I need to come back here, right? Um, we cannot take the text of this $500 because this is what we are validating, right? So it could be changing. So we cannot take the text. We need to take the element which contains this text. So think in that way. Okay, so what I was thinking is, can we use the following sibling method because all these elements seems to be at the same level, right? So let's see if we can get this particular UL element which contains this particular H2 text, okay, using the sibling. So we have got a divide equals to product, which seems to be unique, right? So you need to find something unique inside your element through which you can identify, right? So let's see if this is unique, right? So this is a unique element within this group, okay? Now, if I want to use any of the access methods, okay, so let's see if we can use the following sibling. And this is the element of type UL. Right. Um, so it is not able to identify with following sibling. Let's see what is contained in ancestor. Ancestor div. So as you can see, there are 7 ancestors and we require right. So the 5th element seems to contain those all the text, right? So if I take it as 5, no. Now let's take it this way. Let's take the index. And 4 and 5. Right. So this we have reached till this div element which contains all the elements. Okay, all the text. Now I need to go to till here. So that will be ul of 2, okay, slash li and slash h2. Okay, so this way I am able to identify this element. As you can see, it has got a little complex, but you will face this kind of scenarios very frequently, or it's very common, right? So you need to fall back upon access methods if there is no other unique element near this particular element which you want to identify. And then you need to track back or go forward or back on the elements in order to reach your destination element. Okay. So this is the desired element which I want. And let's call it heading or H2. Let's call it head, and we'll call it the price. Okay. So this is the XPath for this. And if we want, we can also verify whether this is the right product which we are trying to add, right? So the MacBook text also we can verify. That's contained inside another div, right? So let's call it div1, okay, and then h1. Okay, it's not inside the div, I think. Let's try h1. Yeah, so it is inside the h1 tag, the product text, right? Product heading, you can call it. So let's go and create this XPath. So I will call it head product text. Let's call it price text. Okay. And this is our head product text. Or we can also remove this, I think. Just a minute. So let me have proper namings for all these elements. txt product heading. Okay. Price heading. Now, these are all our elements. Now, what are the methods we want to write here, right? So the first method which we want to write is clicking on this particular element. Okay. So let's write public static void click click product. Okay, let's make it generic, and we can accept strict product name. Okay, and then browser utils dot click element. So this we will call it the link MacBook. We don't need the product name because we are already taking the link for that particular product, right? So this is the method to click on the product. Once we reach there, we have to validate a few things. Okay, so we'll call it public void public static void and validate price. Okay, browser utils dot validate text. Now we need the actual text here. So string price text, or we can call it actual price. Okay. So what we need to do here is, what does it accept? String element and expected text, right? Sorry, this should be expected. This is the price heading, so we will pass it over here. Comma expected price, right? So similarly, we will have for validate product and expected name, you can call it. Pass it over here and product heading here. And the last part is to click on add to cart, right? So public static void and click add to cart button. Browser utils dot click element and button add to cart. So now you can see it has become so much easier to write our scripts, right? Because we have already written these common methods into our framework. Now it is just a matter of calling these methods which we want to use in our test cases, right? So once obviously creating a framework will take some time in the initial period, but later on it will give you the benefits, which is your execution time, also the time to create your scripts would come down or will be lesser, right? Now, if I go to product step definitions, all I have to do is call the methods, right? So let's have a and condition also here, right? You'll have a and step where we'll say user clicks on the MacBook product. Right, so we have got another step here. Now here we will call the method. So product page dot click on product, right? And here we will call products page dot validate, or not here. Okay, although there is no such validation, but we can put it under this particular thing, right? Or before we add the product to the cart. So I will call product page dot validate price. Okay, I need to pass the exact price here, which is $500. Okay, and then I will say validate product. And what is the product? MacBook. Actually, I should do it first and then validate the price. Right, and if these two are fine, then only I will add to the cart button. Right, so it will perform these two validations and then only it will add the product to the cart. If any of these validations fail, it will not add the product into the cart. Okay, so that's the flow. of this, right? And we can also add another step for quantity also, right? Because if you want to have more quantity, you can add that step here. So let's complete this scenario. It's a big scenario in all, right? User clicks on MacBook product, and let's have another and. User enters the quantity of the product. Okay, so let's create the step definition. Enters the quantity. Okay, so what I'm going to do is enter quantity. This is my method name. And we need to pass the value here. So I'm going to say 2, right? Let's create the method in the products page here. Quantity will say, and browser utils dot enter text, and we'll just use the element and text, right? So text is quantity and element is, we need to find this element. So private static string, we'll call it txt box quantity. Right, so let's inspect this and see what we have got here. So we have got a ID, which should be enough to identify this element. So it is a input type at ID equals this. Okay, and we can pass it over here so that it will enter this quantity into this particular text box. Okay, so no need to change anything in the browser utils page right now. We have got all the methods which we require. And so if you don't know, right, if you are on the feature file and on the scenario steps, right, if you want to go to the implementation of this, which is the step definition, press control, and then it will become a link. Okay, so you can click on this and it will land you over the particular step. So this is one shortcut in IntelliJ. And this is where we'll enter the quantity, right? We'll add the product to the cart. So let's add 2 here. Then we need to go to the shopping cart, right? So we need to click on this shopping cart link. Yes, so it has got a, so I can use this title here. This is a link at title equals this. Okay, it's unique. As you can see, our steps are also increasing as we are going through the scenario, right? So user clicks on add to cart for MacBook product, right? Once that's done, I need another and step here, which is user clicks on shopping cart link. Okay, then MacBook product is added to the shopping cart. Okay, so let's create this step. And here we will say products page. So this Yeah, so this you can add either in the products page or also you can add it in the home page, right? Because this is the in the top menu. So it's better to add it in the home page as a link. So we'll say public static void, click shopping cart, and browser utils dot click element, and we'll add the element here. So private static string link shopping cart, and let's take this XPath. Okay, and then pass it over to this particular method, which will click on this link. Now go back here, go to the step definition, and so it's in home page, right? Not in products page. So home page dot click shopping cart. Only thing left is whether the product is added to the shopping cart or not, right? So once you click on this shopping cart link, it will show you this shopping cart page, right? And here again, we need to perform some validations, right? So what are the validations we can perform? Um, so we can check for the quantity, or we can check the total price. Okay. So let's do this. So I'm going to add another page object class, which is the shopping cart page. Okay, let me add all the elements now here. So what would be the elements? I have got a checkout button, right? So let me add that. Call it button checkout. I can use the text here. So this is my checkout button. What else we have got? So we have got continue shopping button. So let's add that as well. Now, okay, now we have got the product here as well. But it is under a table, right? We have also got the model, which you can verify, reward points. So there are a number of validations which you can perform, right? Let's see. So in order to reach to this particular text, since this is in a table, so let's try to identify this table. So this is a web table, right? And there are different rows and columns inside which our elements are present. So let me just check whether this is the right table. But before that, I require this div ID equals to content just to make sure that I'm on the right element, right? So div at ID equals content Okay, and then I will go to the lower levels. I will search for a table. And then let's see. So this is the first table. So first index, right? Now we have entered the desired table. Now where is our link here, right? It is under the first row and second column. So what you can do is you can go to tr of 1. It is under t body, right? So let's first take that T body, and inside this we have got tr of 1. So that's the row we want. After that we have got td of 2, right? And inside this we have got the link. Okay, so this is the link which I want, right? Now I will say private static string link product, and I'll use the XPath here. So this is how you iterate through your web tables in order to get different elements. We have already seen this, but this is another example of how you can work with web tables in your application, right? Now I can identify all the elements which are present in this particular inside this particular table, right? Like the unit price, I can verify that. I can verify the total. Okay. So let's see if we can verify this particular text. Okay. So this is inside the third row, right? Inside or third column, you can say. So not the third, actually fourth column. Right, so this is inside this, and inside this we have also got this particular, it's like a text box. Okay. So what we can do is input. So that will give me this will give me the particular element, and then I want to grab this particular value, right? But this is the element we require. So quantity, right? I can call it as element or just quantity. Let's call it text box. This is another place where you can change the quantity also, right? You can enter the quantity here. So in order to get, if it would have been a text, we would have used get text, but since it is a attribute which is not text, right? So if you want to grab any value of a particular attribute of an element, you have to use get attribute. Okay, so you can use the get attribute of value, and it will return you this value, which is 2. Okay, so let's see what else we want to verify, right? We can verify the price, we can verify the total. So to do that, let's see if it is inside the fifth column, right? So this is a text which is present inside this column, and we can directly use it. Okay, so we will call it We'll call it text and price. Okay. And then private static string txt total price. Again, this is another table. So I can use td of 6. Okay, the same thing you can do for, I mean, these validations you can also perform here, right? Which is the subtotal and total. Okay. Now, what else we require, right? So we require some methods here, like public static void checkout. Although we don't require this method right now, but still let's add it so that it will be part of the framework, right? So BTN checkout. Similarly, if you want any scenario with continuous shopping, so you can add another method for that. What are the other methods? So other methods are all validating different text values on this page, right? So public static void validate product name and browser utils dot validate text, right? We will get the product name here. So string expected product name. We'll call it link product, comma, expected product name. Okay, so that will return me the get text. Grab the text and then compare it. So that will work fine. So public static void validate quantity, or you can say product quantity, and we'll get the string expected quantity. Okay, and for this we cannot validate a text, right? Because this is something else. This quantity has got a value attribute. And so we need to now add another method to our browser utils class. Okay, so in browser utils, instead of validate text, we are going to create another method here, which is called validate. uh, let's call it validate value, which could be any particular value. Okay, so we'll get the string element same as above, and string expected value. So that will get us the value, expected value, right? Now, in order to get the actual value, I can say find and wait element of this particular XPath dot get attribute, right? Of now we also require the string value here, right? So if you want to make it generic, you should accept another third argument here, which will be string the value type, right? So what we can call it, so we'll call it value type. Okay, and we'll pass it over here. That should return us the actual value. and then we can put our assert here. So we can say expected value, and which is equals to the expected so here it will be expected value plus is not matching with actual value. Okay, and then we'll get the actual value here. After this, we'll put the condition, which is expected value dot equals actual value. So that is our method, which contains 3 arguments instead of 2 arguments. Right, so let's go back here, or which page we were on, shopping cart page, right? So here we'll say browser utils dot validate value. Okay. Now we'll first need to pass the element. So we'll pass quantity. As after that, we have to pass the expected value, which is expected quantity, and then the value type, right? So what value we want to pass on here, through which we can get that particular value, which is string called value, right? So we can pass it directly here. So let me just check. Yeah, so this is the value attribute. We can actually call this in the method as the attribute type instead of value type, right? So let's go back here and call it attribute type. Right, so shopping cart page, and we have validated our product quantity. Now validating our other text, right, which is the text price and text quantity. So this validate product price and product total price. So this will be product price, and this will be, so let's take it as product price, right? And this will be this. This will be, replace it with product price. And we need to pass the txt price here and the txt total price here. Okay. Now it will work for the product price, but what about the total price, right? Now I don't want to make it anything fixed, right? This product total product price. We have already got the product price from our requirements, but then the total price will depend on the quantity of the products, right? So this total product price might keep on changing. We don't have a fixed value for this. So it should not be a user entered value. Rather than that, let's calculate this product price, right? So what we can do is string, right? Total product price equals to expected product price, and we have to multiply it with the value, right? So how can we do that? Or quantity, you can say. And we have actually got the quantity, so we can pass it over here. String quantity. Okay, so quantity can be coming from the user defined requirements. Okay, and we need to just multiply it with this product price, right? So if it is 500 into 2, which will be 1000, right? And it cannot be a string, right? It would be a int because we are performing a calculation, so it will be an integer type. Now we need to also convert it into a string, right? So let's use integer dot parse int, and let's pass this product price, and we'll also do the same for quantity. So integer dot parse int of quantity, right? That will return us an integer, which we will store it on an integer variable. Okay. Now we need to pass a string over here. So we need to convert it into a string again. Okay. So what we can do is total product price dot or can we expect. So let's go back to browser utils, validate text. Okay, so validate text expects string value. So we need to pass a string. Okay, so if I do it like this, integer, right? Since I had made it int, it will be difficult to convert it, right? But if it is an integer, I should be able to convert it by using the toString method. But if it is a int, then you cannot convert it. Let me try. So that's one way of doing that. The other way is string dot. I've also called something called value of method. Okay, so this value of method, you can use it for any particular data type, int, char, long. So it will give you the value. So that's also a good way of doing this. Okay, so that should give me the string value of total product price. Okay, so that should work. Now coming back to feature, what we had here. So MacBook product is added to the shopping cart. I will put a number of different validations here. Okay. So shopping cart page dot validate product name. Give me the product name. So that's MacBook. Shopping cart page dot validate product price, which is $500. Obviously, you don't need to enter this manually every time, right? So you can put it in a configuration file also, right? And pick that value from the configuration file and pass it over your test cases. Okay, so this is the quantity. And finally, price we have done already. So total price. I need to pass the product price here. I think there is another parameter here. So that is product quantity, right? So let's do this before this. So these are all the validations which will make sure that our MacBook product is correctly added to the shopping cart. Okay. So I mean, what I'm doing in this sessions is I am automating end-to-end scenarios in this application, as well as I am preparing the framework. Both are being done simultaneously. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. So we'll be doing it like this. So simultaneously, we'll be building the framework wherever we require anything which should be part of the framework, we'll put it in the framework, and we'll start building the scenarios. So we'll be defining the scenarios and the respective methods wherever it is required, right? So that will build the complete project. So I'll be continuing in this manner in the next sessions as well.